Hello, ladies and jelly spoons. Welcome to the Game Dojo. I'm your host, the Game Ninja. Sorry about my struggling chair. You're gonna hear it crunch back and forth in between here and there and yonder. And it's funny because that's the segue of what I'm going for. Things get old, time marches on, and things change. You already know where you guys are. I'm here to announce that today, and I'll have to do this in my William Wallace voice. Today, in the year of our Lord 2025, in August, I do believe it's the 12th. By the way, Alien show, that new Alien After Earth show comes out today. Go watch it. Let me know what you think. You know your boy gonna be doing a review of it. All right, that's off the table. It was announced today, and I'm a very old guy, and I lived long enough to see a lot of things come to pass. I lived long enough to see Hostess go out of business, come back in business, but they ain't got all the recipes. It ain't the same. I tried the Wonder Bread. I tried the pies. It ain't the same. I lived long enough to see Mike and Ike break up, which that was a candy from my childhood. I never met Mike or Ike. Don't know which one's responsible for the red doodles, but the red doodles was always the bomb. Red and yellow. The penny candy stores are no more. And you're like, Game Ninja, what are you talking about? Well, today, the last of the largest game companies announced that they are no longer about consoles. And that means with the announcing of the senior vice president of PlayStation announcing that they are no longer about consoles, they're about the community and ecosystem. It means that the gamer wars is over. The console wars is over. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I grew up during the birth of video games. I grew up during PlayStation becoming a company when they were collaborating with Nintendo, and Nintendo kind of spurned them on the deal. Sorry, Nintendo. It was going to be the PlayStation. We knew about the Nintendo PlayStation. We knew about it. It's public knowledge. So I still love you. I don't hate you, but it did happen. So Nintendo and PlayStation that was working on a game system went their own ways, and PlayStation, you know, has become the gigantic conglomerate that it is with PS5 and the PS5 Pro, and they're talking about the PS6. But it was announced today that there really is no future in console exclusives. There really is no future in mass producing and spending so much money when the ecosystem is what matters and not the actual platform. They're more interested in people playing their games all across. There used to be once upon a time that if you got a certain game, it was only on PlayStation. And if you got a certain game, it was only on Xbox. And if you got a certain game, it's only on Nintendo. Wait a minute. There still is one company that you can only get their games on Nintendo, and that would be Nintendo. So let me get this straight. During the console wars, Sega, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, Panasonic 3DO, Real TurboGrafx 16, NEC, all these game systems, Atari, all these game systems in the console wars, and when the smoke cleared, there's only one console still making games for only itself, not sharing its intellectual properties. And if you want to play that game, you have to buy that system. That is Nintendo. Nintendo just mic dropped and won the console wars. All you naysayers, all you shit tuckers, all you console junkies out there, I got every console. I have every console. You've seen it on my channel. I have every console. I love Nintendo. But in the year of our Lord 2025, there is only one gaming console that in order to play those games, you have to buy said console to play those games. And here's the proof positive. Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man. They did the whole deal with them and Marvel. If you want to play Spider-Man 2, you ain't gonna play it on Xbox. At least not right now. You can play it on PC. They made PlayStation PC. Oh, wait a minute. Does that mean they shared their exclusives with PC, which is Microsoft? I do believe they did. Can you play the Mario Kart World on that PlayStation? No. Can you play the 7,000 Year Door on PlayStation? No. Can you play Super Mario Brothers Wonder on Xbox? No. Can you play Metroid 4 Prime when it comes out on Xbox? No. Can you play a Spider-Man game on Nintendo? Yes. Matter of fact, if you play the Black Order, you can play as all the Spider-Men. Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Miles Morales. Hell, they're all there. If you want to play Halo, and the real bomb dropper was, there was a commercial that just came out talking about Helldivers 2. And in Helldivers 2, in the middle, and well, towards the end of the commercial, they show an announcement for Halo. PlayStation and Xbox collabing on shit? Now exclusives that was on PlayStation are going to Xbox. Xbox games are going to PlayStation. Nintendo still not sharing shit with anybody. I think there's one clear winner. One clear console champ. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hate it or love it, the underdog's on top. And they gonna shine until that red end stops. And right now, it ain't stopping. And with over $6 million in units sold on its brand new console in less than a month, Nintendo just put the brand that they are the truly undefeated king of beers. Nah, that's Budweiser. They are the truly undefeated console champions. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can sit there with the stank faces. You can sit there with the lip poked out. You can argue it, but money, semantics, and presidents don't lie. Well, presidents do lie. Just not of... Well, no, because the president of PlayStation said this wouldn't happen, and the president of Xbox said this wouldn't happen, but it happened. Look, as gamers, we still win. That means all the best games we want to play, we can still play on our console of choice. That means if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, you don't have to buy a PlayStation for that Spider-Man. You don't have to buy an Xbox for that Halo. You don't have to buy a console to enjoy those games. And that was the dream, because game makers want to sell as much copies of their software as possible. And if they're limited, blocked behind a paywall on Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, then it cuts their sales down. And we've been calling for cross-platform games for decades. Even before the Fortnite thing and the Disney Speedstorm, there's very few games that are multi-cross-platformed. And in the year of our Lord, 2025, I should be able to jump on my Nintendo Switch and play you, PlayStation, and you, Xbox, in Mario Kart World. But I can't, because it's a Nintendo exclusives. But I can play y'all in Fortnite from my Nintendo Switch. I can play y'all in Disney Storm from my Nintendo Switch. There is a ton of cross-platform games I can play from my Nintendo Switch to y'all guys, both on Xbox and the PlayStation platform. And when it comes to the newest games out, all these announcements, all these deals, all these ports coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, because I don't know if you saw the Nintendo Switch 2 running WW2K, the newest game, versus PlayStation 5, but unless you are a hardware and software designer, you barely notice the difference. So yeah, Nintendo is stomping with the big dogs in the year of our Lord 2025. Say it with me. And now the console wars are over. Don't feel bad about it. As gamers, we still win. How many of y'all got a Steam Deck? You got the games. How many of y'all gone get that brand new Xbox ROG Ally with Steam built into it? That new console that comes out for Xbox, which is basically a tower, has Steam built into its store. So now their stores is what they're focusing on. That's where all their games are on. That's where their day ones are being put on. That's where this shared experience is happening. Xbox said, if you have a tablet, you have an Xbox. I don't know if y'all saw the commercial. If you have a tablet, you have an Xbox. If you have a phone, you have an Xbox. If you have a TV, you have an Xbox. And everybody looked at him like he was crazy, and people were just like, that means Xbox it's over for Xbox. No, it's not. Xbox is Microsoft. Microsoft does PC. PlayStation works with PC. PlayStation PC. And now the last console to enter this domain has been PlayStation, announced by their senior president. It's about community now. It's no longer about the hardware. It's about community. And that's where the money is. The money is in the games. It used to be just in the hardware, but now it's in the games. And no matter the fall of this great war, and I've been on the front lines of this war since it began, back in the late 80s. Nintendo, during a time with the great video game crash of the 80s, Nintendo was the company that proved that there was a market still for gaming. Nintendo literally reinvigorated the world of video games with the Nintendo Entertainment System. It changed the face of gaming. And without Nintendo, whether you want to admit it or not, without Nintendo, there would not be a gaming space that we have nowadays. Nintendo literally saved the great game crash of the 80s. Nintendo proved that there was a market. Nintendo proved that there was money to be made on the frontier of gaming. And with Sega and 3DO and all the other companies that was coming out at the time, the war began. And at one point, you had 6 or 7 different consoles you can choose from to game. And if you wanted to play that special game, you only had to buy that console because it was not available across on another console. And thus the console wars began. Well, now, almost 40 years later, in the year of our Lord 2025, Augustus, the console wars have ended from the very mouth of the last company that everyone had faith in, PlayStation. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me today in raising your cups. I know you don't want to do it, but you got to do it because they are the only console today, the only console with exclusives that you have to buy the hardware in order to play the software. The only company. Do your research, Google, look at what the president of Sony just said, look into what Xbox, the president of Microsoft just said, look into what their new direction is. It is no longer console exclusives. The only company that is console exclusive right now is Nintendo. And in that last victor, the last man standing, still with physical media, still with digital media, still with only console exclusive, can't do this on any other platform right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, raise your cup high to Nintendo. They are the boss. And whether you want to drink from that cup or pour it out for the systems that ain't here, they are the boss. Boss. They are the boss. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the console wars are over. Go back to your homes. Go back to your families. Don't be sulked. Don't be angry. Congratulate. Because the company that saved the video game industry in the 80s, literally saved the video game industry, is the last one still standing, both for physical media, both for console exclusives and exclusivity, and literally are getting games from both Xbox and PlayStation on their platform, but isn't really sharing any of their first party games with any company. Now, of course, you can say, well, Rain, you can go and get this emulation and that emulation, and you can play it on PC. You can still do this and you do that on PC. This was the mic drop. The reason why the day one patch, the reason why Nintendo Switch 2 came out and people couldn't figure this and they couldn't figure that and they couldn't do this and they couldn't do that, and websites were being taken down and satellites were linking up in space, and there were Nintendo copyright brands on this person and they taking this channel and that channel and destroying this person and doing that and doing that. The reason for all of that is so that their software, their hardware, remain entities of just Nintendo. Now, some people may be angry about that. I get it. But on the same token, I have a Nintendo Switch 2. I bought my Nintendo Switch 2 because I wanted to play Mario Kart World. There is no other way right now to play Mario Kart World than on a Nintendo Switch 2. Can't do it on your Steam Deck. Can't do it on your Xbox. Can't do it on your PlayStation. If you want to play Mario Kart World or Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is currently sitting at a 10 on the scale, there's the mic drop right there. Donkey Kong Bonanza is sitting at damn near a perfect rating score. It can only be played on Nintendo Switch 2. Mario Kart World, whether you want to believe it or not, look at how many copies sold at launch, and almost everybody was getting the bundle. Everybody wants to badmouth Nintendo. Everybody wants to talk about this and talk about that. They'll brick your systems. So will Xbox and PlayStation if you try that hacking shit on them too. It is not exclusively Nintendo that will brick your system. Read your user agreements, both in Xbox and in PlayStation. And this is nothing new. This goes all the way back to the beginning of these PlayStations when they first had network and online activity. Hackers will always exist. People will always exist to exploit. Those exploits will always be illegal. Understand that. It's not a Nintendo thing. It's not an Xbox thing. It's not a PlayStation thing. It is a universal precaution when it comes to a company, period. Now, having said that, Nintendo, let me know if you see this on PlayStation, Xbox. Nintendo took all their old systems that gave them revenue, that were number one, and they put them on the Nintendo Switch. Is there a PlayStation 3 on a PlayStation 5? Is there a PlayStation 4 on a PlayStation 5? Is there a PlayStation 2 on a PlayStation 5? Is there a PlayStation 1 on a PlayStation 5? There are a few games. There are the online store where you can get those games again. There are some free games that they add monthly services. But a PlayStation 1, a PlayStation 2, and a PlayStation 3, and a PlayStation 4 isn't on a PlayStation 5. Same thing with Xbox. Is there an Xbox One inside the Xbox Series S or X? Is there an Xbox 360 in there? Is there an original Xbox in there? No, there's games from those consoles, but those consoles are not virtually on those systems. Nintendo, within the confines of its online service and own hardware for the Nintendo Switch 2, has a Nintendo in it, a Super Nintendo in it, a Nintendo 64 in it, A Game Boy, a Game Boy Advance, and a GameCube. Do you see what they're doing? It's genius. They're taking all their consoles of previous generations and putting those systems on the game. It's genius. Everybody who wants to play those old systems can either go out and buy those original systems, which are hard to find, even pricier to own, and you're going to pay out the yin yang to get them. I know. I have a Nintendo 64. I have a Sega Genesis. I have a regular Nintendo. I have a regular Xbox, a PlayStation 1, an Atari 2600, 7800. I have a PlayStation 1, a PlayStation 2, a PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 4. I have an Xbox 360. I have a TurboGrafx 16, a Panasonic 3DO reel. I have the systems. I have all of them. I know how hard it is to get those games. I know how hard and expensive it is to physically collect those things. The reason why people ask why my Genesis collection is only like 40 or 50 cartridges out of the hundreds and thousands of games they made is because I'm not going to spend $4,000 for a copy of Columns because somebody at WATA says it's worth $1 million. Not going to do it. It's not going to happen. It's parasitic. I'm not going to spend $1 million that I don't have and probably never will on a copy of Super Mario Brothers because WATA says it's a certified copy. Look, you can take a piece of shit in a box and have somebody certify it. It's still shit in a box. And you have to decide, as an adult, how far are you willing to go? Simply put. So at a certain point, when I saw the things change in collecting and classic game collecting, I just collected the ones that I wanted to play, my favorite games, and I invested into those cartridges, those games. That's the Xbox wall. See those games on my wall? Most of those, before the prices were hiked up by people online who want to attack the pockets of physical classic game collectors. A lot of those games sold for dirt cheap. Some of those I found at Walmart for $1, $2, $3, 99 cents. Some of those was literally on sale. I got the Call of Duty Ghosts Xbox 360 collection that was $350 for $11.99. Proud of it. Proud of it. A lot of it is you going out there being in the right place at the right time. But if you want the games that you want and you want to collect, you have to decide how far you're willing to go. Nintendo has taken virtually all of those consoles, and they're still doing more, and put them in the Nintendo Switch with games, the favorite games, plus the Nintendo Switch. Plus the Nintendo Switch 2. Do you see the genius in literally taking all your consoles that you see out there in the world people are getting? And this occurred to them. Because remember, they made the Mini, and I have both Minis. I have the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, and I was waiting for the 64. And they didn't come out with the 64 Classic, and I'm like, damn! But then they came out with the Nintendo 64 on the Nintendo Switch. The app on the Nintendo Switch. And I'm like, okay, that kind of works. I wanted the actual shell of a Nintendo 64, but playing it was the ultimate, that was the ultimate goal. Do you understand? It's genius in how they marketed their company and how they ran it. So much to the point now that if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, inside that Nintendo Switch 2, besides the Nintendo Switch 2 games that are console exclusives, you have the original Nintendo with games on it. You have the original Super Nintendo with games in it. You have Nintendo 64 with games in it. You have the Nintendo 64 app with mature games in it. You have the Sega Genesis with games in it. You have the Game Boy Advance with games in it. You have the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color with games in it. And now you have the GameCube with games in it, all on your Nintendo Switch 2. And on top of that, they're still willing to give you physical games when everybody's going the way of digital and the dodos. Now when you buy a game, it's a code in the box, and you got to download it to the console. Then there's an update for an update and a patch for that update. And then you have to update the update of the update. We've gone through this. Go look up my PlayStation video. I bought Call of Duty, and the campaign, the reason why I bought Call of Duty was for the story, the campaign. The campaign had to be downloaded. The campaign wasn't even on the disc. 250 gigs when I first installed it, and the campaign wasn't a part of it. I went to go play the campaign, and I had to download the campaign. I bought a game for the game and had to download the actual game to play the game that I bought. That's lunacy. That's lunacy. And here we are, in the year of our Lord 2025. Only one company still will give you physical copies. And I know there's some games on PlayStation that were to give you physical copies, but it's not a physical copy, because as soon as you put it in, it has to install to the console. And you try to run that some bitch without that DVD. You try to run a some bitch without that digital key card. And you guys got on Nintendo for that shit. Digital key cards. You can still sell a digital key card game to another person. Did you know that? But your digital key disc for PlayStation or Xbox has to be downloaded to a console. And if you have the terabyte system, that's not even nothing anymore, because Call of Duty with all the modes and stuff in it is like 300 gigs. Now, 75% of your drive is taken up off of one game. But don't worry about that, because as soon as you got all of that installed and you're ready to play Call of Duty 6 and you got it all with your friends, hey, they just announced Call of Duty 7. How much you think that shit is gonna be? Grand Theft Auto 6. How big of a file have you heard that was? Now you have 3 or 4 games take up your entire terabyte hard drive on your console. That's PC, ladies and gentlemen. That's PC territory. Nintendo is still willing to give you its first party games on a cartridge. Maybe not the third parties, but its first party games, they're all on a cartridge. Nintendo won. Whether you want to, whether you want to admit it, whether you want to feel it, whether you want to understand it, Nintendo has won the console wars. And that's what today is about. Today is about celebrating the last console to stand tall, victorious in the console wars. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hats off, cups held high, hold your drinks to the sky. Nintendo is the winner of the console wars. The little industry that could. And it's not so little anymore. It is a monster. It is a conglomerate. It is the last surviving system to be console exclusive solely. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in the year of our Lord 2025, Augustus 12th, Nintendo, congratulations. I never thought I'd live to see the end of the war, but the war ended in my life frame, and I'm proud to see it. The little game system, the little company that started so humbly as playing cards and dirty games, is now the last standing console exclusive, with all its exclusivity held to its company. And with that, I give you the true victor of the console wars. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ladies and jelly spoons, Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power. Good night enjoy. And today's gameplay goes out to Nintendo on every aspect of the way. Congratulations, Nintendo. Congratulations on Nintendo Switch 2 and to many more years of being the undisputed champ, the heavyweight reigning champ of consoles in the hearts and minds of true gamers. You deserved it. You saved the industry when the industry was no more, and now you stand tall when consoles have become no more. Congratulations, Nintendo. We out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Had to let you know. This has been a public service announcement by Raincrow and Raincrow Enterprise. I'm not going to give you any kind of like, you know how at like commercials they give you like a dude whispering all the side effects, you know. So I'm going to give you what I'm going to give you all of this. I'm going to cause rectal bleeding, coughs and stomach, gas with an oily bowel charge. So I said a lot, but you weren't meant to hear it. That's the side effects of Levitra or Arsmonic or Herpaxia. Anyway, congratulations, Nintendo. You are the boss. Boss!